Now, as we all know, Venerable Karma Lekshe Tsomo, who was the past president of our Sakyadhita International, will give us her Dharma talk. 모두 아시다시피 깔마 렉셰 소모께서는 지난 그 샤카디타 인터내셔널의 회장으로 지내셨습니다. 이제 스님의 말씀을 듣도록 하겠습니다. 한국 분들은 리시버를 다 들으시면 되겠습니다.
안녕하세요. Tashidele and aloha to everyone this evening. Yes, it is my honor to share some of the teachings that I have received from my teachers with you this evening. The first thing I think we should do is to check our intention, check our motivation. Why are we here? This is a practice that we can do every day with every action to check why we are doing what we're doing. If our motivation is pure and we do an action with awareness and then we dedicate the merit, it becomes a perfect practice. It becomes a Dharma practice. And it moves us further on the path to awakening. So I'll start with a Tibetan chant of generating the bodhicitta, the awakened thought. Sangye chidang tsoki chok namla Changchu Badu Dagni Kyapsuchi Dagi Jinso Ki Pesunam Ki Dola Penchir Sangye Duparsho Sangye Chidang Tsoki Chok Namla Changchu Badu Dagni Kyapsuchi Dagi Jinso Ki Pesunam Ki Dola Penchir Sangye Duparsho Sangye Chidang Tsoki Chok Namla Changchu Badu Dagni Kyapsuchi Dagi Jinso Ki Pesunam Ki Dola Penchir Sangye Duparsho. We go for refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha until we achieve enlightenment. By the practice of generosity and the other perfections, may we achieve the state of perfect awakening in order to liberate all living beings from suffering. So, with this pure motivation, we start by remembering that all beings want to be happy. Nobody wants suffering. But somehow, we continuously create the causes for suffering, and we forget to create the causes for happiness. So this is the human dilemma. We're so busy with so many different things, we forget. So by doing this prayer, it reminds us. Another thing that really helps is to remember the sufferings of sentient beings. We probably live a pretty nice life, but in the world today there's so many problems. So many people are suffering from many different causes. And so we want to generate this motivation to try to become someone who can help to guide others out of the wheel of suffering. Yeah. So my teachers always taught about the 8 worldly concerns and how we get tangled up in the 8 worldly concerns. The 8 worldly concerns are the concern for loss and gain, the concern for pleasure and pain, right? The concern for praise and blame, and the concern about fame and obscurity. We get caught in these cycles. And because of that, we create actions that are unwholesome. And then we continue to spiral within the cycle of samsara. So I thought we would talk about the 7 steps to achieve bodhicitta, to realize bodhicitta, the awakening thought. Tonight I'm sharing traditions and teachings from the Tibetan tradition. Yesterday during the meditation I was teaching something that's common to all traditions. But tonight I thought I would share something unique from the Tibetan tradition so that we can all learn about different traditions. So this is one teaching it's not unusual. All this is found in the Mahayana teachings and also even in the Theravada teachings. But the Tibetans have systematized it and made it very easy to learn and to practice. So we begin by equalizing all sentient beings. Generally, we're caught in a pattern of closeness to some and distance from others. Right? Some people we love very much. We keep close to our hearts. We do anything for them. And other people we don't care so much about. That would be the majority, right? 8 billion people on planet Earth. But how many are we really concerned about? Usually just our near and dear ones. So the Buddha reminded us that all sentient beings are basically in the same situation. And here we can include the animals, insects, birds, even the cockroaches, even the people that we don't care for so much, people who have harmed us. We want to try to equalize all sentient beings equally, so that we can care about all of them equally. This takes some practice, but it makes a lot of sense, actually. Now, by sentient beings, what do we mean? We use this term lightly, but it means a being with consciousness. Okay, a sentient being is someone who has consciousness, knowing, awareness. There were some Western philosophers who thought that animals didn't have consciousness. Can you imagine? Yeah, Descartes. He didn't think that dogs had consciousness. But the Buddhists know very clearly. I mean, if you've ever had a dog or a cat, you know for sure they have consciousness, right? Even ants have consciousness. When you try to chase them, they run away, right? So the first step of this meditation, which is called the 7 steps to developing bodhicitta, the awakened thought. We begin by remembering that all living beings have been our mothers at some time or another. So there are infinite sentient beings in the universe, and we have lived an infinite number of times, being reborn again and again and again since beginningless time. And in each of those lifetimes, pretty much, we've had a mother. And so remembering that all of these infinite sentient beings have been our loving mother is a really important practice. The second step is to remember the kindness of the sentient beings. As Dr. Ayo Yetunde yesterday was explaining so beautifully, we owe a tremendous debt of kindness and gratitude to our mothers who suffered so much carrying us in their womb for 9 months. giving birth to us with great pain, teaching us to walk and to talk and to eat and everything. So when we think about it, we owe our mothers a tremendous debt of gratitude. That's the second step. The third step is repaying the kindness. So we can recognize that all sentient beings have been our loving mothers. And we can recognize that all of them have been tremendously kind to us. But if we ignore them, isn't that rude? How can we be so ungrateful? Even a dog will wag its tail when we give it food. A dog recognizes the kindness of the donor, of the owner, of the human that feeds them. So how can we neglect the sentient beings who have all been our loving mothers and been so kind to us? How can we ignore them? So you see the logic here. Infinite sentient beings, infinite lifetimes. Someone was our mother in each lifetime. That means that each and every person in this room, each and every person out on the street, including the insects and the birds and fish, all the animals have at some point or another been our kind and loving mother, sacrificed so much for us, and yet we ignore them. So the fourth step is to generate compassion. Compassion is defined as wishing to free all beings from suffering. When we look at the sufferings of sentient beings, and it's very important that we do. How are we going to get liberated if we don't understand the nature of suffering? How are we going to liberate beings if we don't understand the nature of their suffering? So we want to generate compassion for all living beings equally. And this is the wish to free all beings from suffering. The fifth step is loving kindness, to generate loving kindness for all living beings. So it goes together with compassion, but loving kindness is the wish for all sentient beings to be happy. So compassion is taking away their sufferings, and loving kindness is giving them happiness, wishing happiness for them, and doing whatever we can to help them become happy. The sixth step is the special thought. So if we've done the meditation properly, we're thinking about taking away the sufferings of all these sentient beings and bringing them happiness. But how are we going to do that? My gosh, we haven't even gotten rid of our own suffering yet. So how can we possibly manage to relieve the sufferings of all sentient beings? Who's going to do that? Who's going to do that? So we can't wait around for someone else to do it. We make a special thought, a special determination. I, personally, will relieve the sufferings of all sentient beings. Now this is a tremendous thought, and it's something very special. It means that we need to meditate carefully on the sufferings of sentient beings in order to sort of ripen our mind to the idea of making this special resolution to free all beings from suffering. But immediately we recognize that we don't have the capability. We haven't liberated ourselves from suffering yet. We don't have the qualities. We don't even have single-pointed concentration. We don't have deep insight. Probably we haven't even developed perfect compassion and loving kindness yet. So how are we going to do that? So the seventh step is that we make a determination to become fully awakened in order to liberate the sufferings of sentient beings. Who is capable of liberating sentient beings? Well, according to the Buddhist teachings, only a Buddha can fully alleviate the sufferings of sentient beings. And so, that means we have no choice but to try to become a Buddha, a perfectly awakened one. Now, this is a tremendous commitment. And it means that we're signing on to 3 countless eons of the accumulation of merit and wisdom. Can you imagine? We very lightly think, oh, I'll become a Buddha in order to help others. But actually, it's not an easy thing to do. We have to be ready to work for the benefit of sentient beings by practicing the 10 perfections. And this may take at least 3 countless eons. Are you ready? It means going to hell even to save one sentient being. That's serious. But this is the meditation that is taught for developing the bodhicitta, the enlightened awareness, this special commitment of bodhicitta. And they say when we generate the bodhicitta, the heavens shake. It's such a powerful intention, such a powerful aspiration. So I'm sure most of us do this every day, but how deep is our commitment? It's important to check out, right? So again, after equalizing all sentient beings, we recall that all of these sentient beings have been our loving mothers. Second, we remember their kindness in so many different lifetimes, what they've sacrificed for us. Third, we make a determination to repay their kindness. Then, we generate compassion. We generate loving kindness. We generate the special thought, I will take on this responsibility to free all beings from suffering. And then, finally, we generate the bodhicitta, the altruistic aspiration to free all sentient beings from suffering. So, these meditations help prepare us for another practice I'd like to share with you, which is actually the name of the talk, Tong-len. And Tong-len has become very popular these days throughout the world. People really love this meditation. So I thought that you might like to learn it if you don't know it already. And there are many different ways of teaching Tong-len. So this is just one way. Tong means to send. Len means to take in Tibetan language. So taking and sending. Taking and sending. What it means is that we visualize taking on the various sufferings of sentient beings. There are so many different kinds of suffering in the world today. And so here we practice taking on all the various sufferings of these sentient beings. Now, this is really counterintuitive. First of all, who wants to think about suffering? Yeah, we mostly try to just put it out of mind, especially in our contemporary culture where everything is happy, happy, and we have the happiness industry that is going to teach us yoga and tai chi and body work and all these self-care and everything to make us happy, right? So our culture is geared toward happiness, not toward suffering. But as Dharma practitioners, we really need to face up to the reality of suffering. After all, it was the Buddha's first noble truth. It's the first thing he talked about. So we want to, think carefully about suffering and not push it away. Like death denial, denying the reality of death. Or we don't want to have suffering denial. We might as well face it. So it won't come as such a surprise when we encounter problems, difficulties, obstacles. The other thing is we are pretty much in touch with our own suffering. But this is also counterintuitive in that we're thinking not just about our own sufferings, but we're thinking about the sufferings of others, right? So I think today people are pretty clear about admitting their own problems, their own pain, their own trauma, and that's also become very current. But what about thinking about the sufferings of others? So if you go into an American bookstore, there's a whole wall of self-help books. But where are the books on helping others? You have to look pretty carefully for them. So this is a practice of visualization. And it's also a way of training the mind. If we can visualize many different things. The visualization of the Buddha, for example, is used as a meditation object in many Buddhist traditions. So in our mind's eye, we visualize the image of the Buddha, and then in meditation, we try to generate that image, that visualization, and in as much detail as possible. This is a way of making the mind very clear. In this case, what we're going to do is to, one by one, take on the various sufferings of sentient beings and transform them into their opposites. So, for example, we could take on the suffering of hunger, and we visualize taking it into our heart, into a small black dot at the, very tiny dot at the, right at our heart center, and transforming it immediately into its opposite, which would be good things to eat, plenty of food. And if we think carefully, we know how rampant food insecurity is in the world today. So that's a good one. We can take on the thirst of all sentient beings. Because of course, with climate change, we face a huge water crisis. You know, our nuns are here from the Himalayas. We know that the glaciers are melting. Some of the nuns have to trek for 6 kilometers to get water to drink. So this is a huge problem in the world today, and it's going to be a problem for all of us pretty soon. So we take on the thirst of all sentient beings, and we transform it into good things to drink. That would be clear water, pure water. And so on and so forth. So this is how we do it. Now, an important thing to remember is that we're not going to keep the sufferings in our heart. We're going to instantly transform them and send out their opposites in order to bring happiness to sentient beings in different ways. So we can send out happiness, as we often do when we meditate on loving kindness, but that's rather generic. It's sort of a blanket term. Whereas in this case, what we do is take on the individual sufferings of different kinds of sufferings and transform them. So I thought if you'd like to join me, then we could actually practice this meditation together. Would you like to try? Yes? Okay, good. Okay, so I really love the Sakyadhita conferences for that we can actually incorporate meditation practice. I go to a lot of Buddhist conferences, but there's no practice at all. It's all talk, 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 which is great. I mean, we learn a lot, but I really appreciate the opportunity to practice with like-minded Dharma friends. So I thank you all for that, and especially for all the organizers who've made this possible. Yeah. So if you can please sit comfortably, let's do a little Tong-len meditation. The way we do this is to place if we're sitting on the ground, of course, we can cross our legs. But since we're sitting in chairs, we place our feet flat on the floor. And then we make sure that our spine is nice and straight. Our shoulders are level. Our chin just a little bit tucked in. It helps to keep the spine nice and straight. We place our hands in our lap, or if you prefer on your knees, but mostly people place the hands in the lap. Could be right over left or left over right, whatever is comfortable for you. Our mouth is shut, and the tongue is on the upper palate. It's good to practice like that, because if you should go into samadhi for a few days, it's very convenient. You won't choke. Just putting that out there. So then your eyes are, you breathe through the nose, if possible, if you don't have a cold. And then keep your eyes just slightly open, say like 90% closed. But enough so that we don't fall asleep. Yeah? So, next we completely relax our body. Straight back, but relaxed. Feel completely comfortable in our body. Feel completely grateful for our body. So we begin by taking on all the hunger of the sentient beings, bringing it into a small pinpoint at our heart, transforming it instantly and sending out all good, nutritious food to all sentient beings. Try to coordinate this with our breathing so that as we breathe in all the suffering of hunger. And as we breathe out, we send out the relief from hunger. Next, we take on all the suffering of thirst of the sentient beings. and immediately transform it into good things to drink. Pure water, clear water, to relieve the thirst of sentient beings. Next, we take on the poverty of all sentient beings. Instantly transform it at our heart into abundance, wealth. Send that out to all sentient beings. Take on all the oppression of sentient beings and send out freedom. Take on all the conflicts of sentient beings and send them peace. Take on all the anger of sentient beings and send them patience. Take on all the greed of sentient beings and send them contentment. Take on all the fears of sentient beings and send them courage. Take on all the loneliness of sentient beings and send them friendship. Take on all the depression of sentient beings and send them lightness of spirit. finally take on all the miseries of sentient beings and send them joy. And when you're ready, gently open your eyes. Now, the afflictions that we took on, it's just a sampling, because the afflictions of sentient beings are numberless. We can think of more, I'm sure. So we can get creative with it too. What sufferings do you have in your neighborhood or in your heart? We can also transform those. And that's the beauty of this meditation, is that even though we think we would feel very heavy by taking on all these sufferings, in fact, what happens by learning to transform the mind, transform these afflictions into their opposites, we actually feel lighter. Not only we're sending out all these remedies to sentient beings, but they're also helping our mind to become lighter, more joyful, more patient, and so on. So I think it has many benefits, in fact. And we can practice it for 5 minutes, or we can practice it for a half hour, or as long as we like. The important thing is not to hold in the suffering into ourselves. We want to release it. We practice releasing it, which is also very, psychologically, I think, very healthy for us to learn to transform, process our own suffering. We can't all afford to go to a therapist. I mean, it's quite expensive. So in this case, we can process the afflictions ourselves. Most people. I mean, most Dharma practitioners. And the more we practice it, the more flexible we get. Our minds become more flexible, easier to transform whatever comes up in daily life. All of the ordinary problems that come up day to day. So I hope that it will be helpful for you. And I hope that it will help all of us to develop greater compassion for each other and for all the sentient beings in the world. So I have no idea what time it is or how much time we have left. But if we have time for questions, I'm happy to take a few questions. Or if you're sleepy, we can just go to sleep. Is it clear, the meditation? It's okay? Oh, I see a question here. Yes?
Venerable, thank you for such a beautiful teaching and meditation. I just wondered, how do you stop being overwhelmed by all the suffering in the world when you're doing that meditation?
Well, I think that the meditation actually helps us from becoming overwhelmed by the sufferings of the world, in that we can really do something about them. And that's a really important question, because there are, if we read the newspaper, even 15 minutes of it is enough for me, we see so many problems in the world. It can easily become overwhelming. In addition, we all have our own personal sufferings. I mean, aches and pains and illnesses and medical treatments and all of that. And taken together, it can be quite overwhelming. So, of course, the Buddha taught many different methods for overcoming suffering. But I find this one very, very helpful in that it goes directly to the point. You know, may I take on all the illness of sentient beings and transform it into good health, for example. So we feel like, and it was especially helpful for people during the lockdown, during COVID, you know, those 2 or 3 years where we weren't going out to many social events and everyone was trying to stay home. And instead of just getting depressed and frustrated, I felt that this meditation was really, really helpful. Check it out. You know, like all the Buddha's teachings, he said, check it out and see if it works for you. But I hope you'll find that it's helpful. And you can start small. We did quite a long one today, actually, because I know all of you are Dharma practitioners and have experience with meditation. So, but we can also do short, you know, brief 5-minute meditations throughout the day too. And that will help it, you know, become less overwhelming, I think. So please do your best.
Thank you for your lecture, and I have a question. When we have pain and suffering, sometimes it is not only the feeling or mood, but actually it is caused by our karma. When we transfer the pain and suffering into happiness, so it is only the feeling or mood transferred or our karma transferred.
Wow. That's a pretty profound question. In fact, I think that we cannot completely change our karma through the visualization, because we have lots of imprints of unwholesome actions from the past. And just wishing them away is not enough. We have to do something actually to counteract those. I think that the Tong-len meditation will help counteract some of that karma. Because imagine you're letting go when we meditate, we're letting go of our self-cherishing, which is the root of all our problems, right? Self-cherishing and self-grasping. And when we're thinking of relieving the sufferings of sentient beings, at least for those moments, we're letting go of our clinging to the self. And that in itself creates tremendous good karma. So in a way, the accumulation of wholesome karma and the purification of unwholesome karma, it's a team. It's kind of a 2-for-1 special. As we're purifying our karma, we're also creating good karma. So in this case, yes, I do think it will be beneficial, but I don't think it's the only method for completely resolving the effects of our karma. That will take time. So all the practices, all the many practices, like, generosity and ethics and patience and all of it, all of these practices we also need to do. And we need to do a lot of it because, we've done some unwholesome actions in the past and it clouds our mind. So little by little, we can feel it clearing out. When we begin to meditate, so many things come up. But gradually it becomes more manageable, easier, clearer, freer, right? Thank you for a good question.
Hi,
Hi,
I'm
Tia.
Zhiyang from Taiwan. You see, when spring coming, in my house, there is the little mouse. She thought I was her mother. Then, from my neck and across my hand, that time I was sleeping. So, my reaction is hold it on and run to the toilet. I think something in my body. So I let it go through to the toilet. Then I think the little mouse can't swim. So I want to find a big bag, let it jump to the bag, and then let it go out. But when I open the cover, she's gone. So I kill a little mouse. I cannot think that I was her mother, because today's the practice to think all human beings, all sentient beings are our mothers. But to the mouse, I can't do it, and I kill a little mouse. What can I do? And what can I make my mind and my heart to settle down? I regret it, so I engage in so many functions to wish the little mouse won't hate me. Next life, he won't be I don't know if she angry at me and be my family, become my bad karma. I worry about that. Thank you so much.
Well, I have quite a lot of experience with mice because our retreat center is in the country. I caught 13 mice, but sometimes it happens that they pass away before being released. And so the difference is that you had no intention to kill the mouse. To be an unwholesome action, a completely unwholesome action, there has to be an object, like the mouse is there. You have to have the intention to kill the mouse. Then you have to actually go through with it. And then you have to rejoice, got it. Now that's a perfectly unwholesome action, right? But you didn't do that. There was a mouse. You saw the mouse. So the first one, yes. But you had no intention to kill the mouse. And you didn't physically kill the mouse. And you certainly didn't rejoice in killing the mouse. So actually, you could say it was an accident. And under the circumstances, you can generate loving kindness for the mouse, wherever they may be. The Tibetans even have a mantra for that, that you can say when you see a dead or a dying animal or insect. So, I mean, it happens all the time. When we walk along the road, we might kill an ant accidentally. And then we can send loving kindness to them wherever they may be. But we don't need to carry around the guilt in our heart because we had no intention to kill. Okay? Does it make sense? Yes, send loving kindness to the mouse. Yes. It is a sentient being. And according to this theory, it has been your mother at some point in time. So, loving kindness is the best remedy. It makes your heart happy and it sends good vibrations into the universe. So, I think it's a good practice.
Hello, thanks for your meditation lecture. I want to ask you a question about how to relieve pain.
Yeah.
So, when I tried to take the pain from others, it was easier. But when I tried to change it into a joy, I was not sure if I could change them all into joy, like 100%. So I was sure, is there a more specific way that I can relieve the pain?
Okay, well, pain, we could be talking about our own physical pain or our own emotional pain, but if you're talking about the sufferings that we're taking on, then this is something we need to practice with. It doesn't happen all at once. Just like developing single-pointed concentration, we can't expect to get it in the first week or month or year. We need to practice at it continuously until it becomes easy. So taking on the sufferings of the sentient beings, yes, in the beginning it may be difficult. We may feel that we haven't completely transformed them. But with practice, it becomes easier and easier.
Thank you.
저는 질문을 드리기보다 우리 소모 스님께서 이 더운 여름 서울에 오셔서 이 코엑스 좋은 공간에서 이렇게 좋은 법문을 하시니까 감개무량해서 마이크를 잡았습니다.
Well, I don't have a question, but since I'm so overwhelmed with the joy that you came all the way to COEX in this hot summer from far and give this wonderful Dharma talk. So she was so happy to hear that.
우리가 지다 뭐 강아지다 이렇게 나눠 보기보다도 모든 것이 우리와 같은 생명이다 이렇게 생각하면 될까요?
So is that right if I understood that it is a mice or a dog or a human being, but we are all the same sentient beings? Is that right?
그래서 그런 생각을 소모 스님 가르침 속에 그게 같은 괜찮은 생각인가 이렇게 여쭈면서 많은 다른 분들께 우리가 좋은 습관을 가지면서 세월을 보내고 60이 넘고 70이 넘으면 참 편안하고 좋다. 그리고 이 세상 모든 것은 공한 성품, 슈냐타의 세계이다. 이렇게 생각해도 괜찮은 건지요? 그리고 강물이 흘러서 바다로 가듯이 우리 모두 흘러서 저 진리의 바다에 함께 모일 수 있다. 이렇게 생각해도 괜찮은 겁니까? 네, 질문입니다.
It's not really a question or kind of her poetic comment that So now we are aging, so we are passing 60s and the 70s. We are entering the stream of the river together. So, well, 스님 제일 마지막에 무슨 말씀하셨는지 잊어버렸어요.
미워할 것도 좋아할 것도 없이 너는 바다에 함께 진리의 바다에 모여간다고 생각하면 되겠습니까?
So is that okay? And if I understood that without even hating or liking anyone, we are just enjoying, or we are being united in the big ocean. Is that a right understanding?
Yes, that's correct. Of course, Sunim knows better than I do, but we are all the same in that we are sentient beings. We're not the same sentient being, but we're all the same in that we all have consciousness, and we all experience the same kinds of sufferings and joys, and we're all, moment by moment, coming closer to death. So it's very important that you raise that issue too. That's another thing that we can take on the fears of sentient beings around death and dying, right? But as Dharma practitioners, we're preparing our minds for passing away. It's not just the moment of death, though that's the most important moment. It's the whole process of dying. But of course then, we've been dying since we were born, since we were conceived. All the cells of our body have been arising and perishing, arising and perishing. What we're facing now is the aches and pains. But now is the time to prepare for death. This is a perfect time. Thank you.
So I was just wondering about the whole idea of intention. And you say a mother's intention is greater than the intention of a wife, for example. Am I right?
No, I didn't say.
I know you didn't say. I'm just asking you, especially when you're going through a separation or a divorce, the mother's first intention is to protect the interests of the child. And especially when the child's father's interests do not protect the interest of the child. So what does the mother do, and what do you pray, what do you chant, what do you meditate for? I do all of those things. Mm-hmm. So, but I am at a juncture where I do not know, should I just give up and, go the Dharma way, in the sense that stop fighting for the rights of my child or my children, because it's causing a lot of pain for everybody, including, the father of the children. So what do you do?
Well, this is a very complicated question, and it depends on the circumstances, because every situation is different. We have to talk about the causes and conditions, right? And each situation will be different, distinct, right? In general, awareness, moment-to-moment awareness, and loving kindness are the generic solutions to just about any problem. Being aware of how we speak, our body language, our interactions with other people, to try to prevent things from getting worse, right? Yeah. That's really important. And then second, to generate loving kindness, both especially before we enter the situation, right? So if we know we have a difficult meeting, to generate loving kindness for the person that we find difficult before going into the meeting will help us. Something like surround us with light, the light of loving kindness. So when we go into the meeting, it's a kind of protection. They say that the arhats and the Buddhas have a field of light around them, and it protects them, this light of loving kindness. So that, I think, could be very, very helpful. And of course, there are many other things, like training in listening skills, communication skills. This could be very, very, important, yeah, in any difficult situation, especially family difficulties, right? In a case where abuse is involved, then it becomes even more complicated. And there may be a time when stepping out of the situation is the right alternative, right? Especially when children are involved. But communication skills, training in communication skills can also help to resolve issues and also to make them easier to handle. So, and it's a kind of awareness, a mindfulness practice that I think Buddhists can really use. So these are just some possible solutions, remedies that can be applied from a Buddhist perspective. Yeah.
No, you're very right, because I do chant for protection all the time.
Okay.
And I think it works.
Okay.
But thank you.
Okay. Okay. So, we can all send metta to all of people undergoing difficulties too, right? Is there something more here?
Venerable, we have 10 more minutes, and I think this will be the... we have 5 more minutes, so this will be the last questions, if it is okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's my turn. These days, in MESCOM or the other many useful mechanics. Nowadays, many bad information is flow. So, in my case, I also have many bad news or bad information in my name, in my email. I never use email, internet, because there are so many problems in Korea. But in my name, there are many kinds of information go around in Korea, not only Korea, but also abroad. The important problem is I respect venerable teacher. He listened the news and believe that. So I become to have a misunderstanding. That moment, I don't know how to act. That was wrong information. I did not do it like this. Then, as if I do some register to him, or if I have a patience and endure, then teacher keep on misunderstanding, then use all that information. So that time I don't know how to do. Can you understand my?
Yes. If I understand you correctly, one thing you can do is to close down your internet. Just close your account.
It's not my choice. They open freely.
Oh, well then you don't have to open it. Yeah. Yeah. And, this goes back to the 8 worldly dharmas, the 8 worldly concerns with the praise and blame. I mean, all of us experience this. People blame you and criticize you and spread false rumors about you and say horrible things about you. And we cannot control that, you know, and we cannot be too concerned about it either because we can't change it. People will say what they will. They say terrible things, you know, untrue things, and we cannot control it. So I think just let it go.
Genla Tashi the Lake.
Yes?
I'm here.
Hi.
Genla, my question is about compassion. As you said, being kind and generous and being compassionate is that is the only way to walk on Buddhahood path. But if I talk about daily this Buddhist practice, daily life practice as a layman, at times I feel, in order to teach something, in order to inculcate something, maybe in terms of habit, maybe in terms of certain skills, or maybe when you are training somebody for any ABC thing, at times you need to be little strict. And I need to be little strict in order to teach something at times with kids or maybe sometimes elder ones. So my question is it non-virtuous to be strict in order to teach something? Because that particular time, if I'll be more compassionate, more loving, probably the student or the next person will not be able to learn that. So how to manage this?
Well, you asked the wrong person because I'm very strict. You can ask my students. But I think it's possible. Like my teachers were very strict, but very compassionate. And sometimes being strict is compassionate, right? Now, if you train in Korea, the discipline is very strict, right? But most of the teachers are also very compassionate. So we all have to find our way. The example they give sometimes is if a child is going to run in the traffic, sometimes we have to raise our voice. That's true. But we have to be careful with it because it's very easy to cross the line and feel anger, because irritation arises. And then if we lose it, that's non-virtuous. So we have to be very aware, especially when working with children and animals, to watch our mind, to watch our reactions, and to be compassionate, but also draw some lines, right?
Thank you so very much.
Yes. Yes. So,
well, I think our time is done.
Okay.
It's
Right.
8:30, and
Okay.
thank you very much, Venerable Lekshe, for your inspiring Dharma talk. And maybe we could give her a big applause.
It's been a joy to be with you, and if I may, I'd like to end with a dedication of merit, which would make our time together, as I say, we start with the pure intention, and we try to maintain awareness, and then we dedicate the merit at the end. It becomes a Dharma practice. So I'll say a short prayer in Tibetan, and then I'll translate it for you. First, we can rejoice in the merit that we've accumulated in our time together, our time of listening to the teachings, contemplating the teachings, practicing the teachings. So we rejoice and feel very glad that we spent our time in a wholesome way. And then we share the merit with all living beings throughout time and space. Lama Sangye Dhub Gyurne Dowa Chikya Mahalpa Keki sala gopasho. By virtue of the merits that we have accumulated, may we achieve the state of perfect awakening in order to liberate all living beings from suffering, leaving not one behind. Thank you. 감사합니다.